Our Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
F1 driver ratings.
Tommy, get down from there.
Stop it.
Tommy, the season is over. That was a race, and
it was a race.
Well, you actually look at
Grand Prix.
you look at the pit stop strategies, and you go, oh, there was strategy, and look, maybe just maybe it wasn't like absolutely horrendous, and we were obviously more focused on the jeopardy of the title fight, and there were some overtakes out there. A lot of the things, I think as well, it goes down to TV direction, where we didn't see a lot because they were fully focused on the championship protagonists. So, yeah, looking back, shock at replays and things like that. I'm like, oh, wow, that happened. So that's fun.
Particularly at the end, where I watched back the highlights about 6 times to find out what on earth happened to certain drivers in the midfield, particularly over that last points positions, which we'll get into, which was basically swapping all through. But understandably, the TV, of course, was focused on the champ.
Imagine. Do you remember that time when Oscar won the race and it was in a mini box? Imagine if it was Oscar Piastri becoming world champion and they put him in the mini box again or something. But anyway, let's get into our driver ratings and begin with Gabriele Bortoleto. Started the race in 7th, finished 11th. My grade for Gabriele Bortoleto is going to be a 7 out of 10. Okay, good. Not what I think a lot of people dreamed of for Bortoleto after a sensational qualifying. He complained about the fact that the car was bouncing around a lot, that he didn't really have the pace. Of course, he went for the one stop as well, which you might think the 2 stops were better when you look around. But then, of course, Verstappen and Piastri both also pulled off a one-stop strategy and finished 1st and 2nd. Bortoleto, just sadly for him, didn't quite have the race pace and surprisingly didn't even score a point.
Yeah, I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Bortoleto. An absolutely brilliant qualifying. His race result looks a lot worse than it actually was. As Lando Norris crossed the line, he was ahead of his teammate Nico Hülkenberg, who finished 9th, and Bortoleto ended up 11th. So he's incredibly unlucky not to get a point. He couldn't hold on the medium tyre at the end. He was in that pack going for the final point, but unfortunately for him, couldn't hold on. They also mentioned that potentially, a car issue or they weren't happy with how the car was performing. That probably hindered him a bit, but I think 11th, it was incredibly close to points and it could have gone to any of those drivers in the mix. It was absolute chaos between 9th and 12th on the final lap that we did not see any of.
Well, chaos between Behrman and Stroll, who both picked up penalties, and that's the reason why Hülkenberg was thrust all the way up to 9th.
Yeah, and Hülkenberg got Bortoleto on the final lap.
Yeah, Bortoleto let him through for sure because they're on completely different strategies. And good job he did because Hülkenberg could then chase down that 5-second gap, which was very marginal come the end of the race. The fans gave Gabby a 7 out of 10. Nico Hülkenberg started the race in 18th, finished 9th.
I have gone for a 7 out of 10 for Nico Hülkenberg. People may think that's harsh that he's finished 9th, but he obviously had a much poorer qualifying compared to his teammate. As you mentioned previously, it looks like Bortoleto let him through to chase after those points. And as we mentioned, he kind of pipped him on the last lap. He had that better strategy, which worked so well for him and Lewis Hamilton to basically make their way through and get a higher position. And then, of course, benefited from the penalties of Behrman and Stroll at the end. Still a great drive in the race from Hülkenberg, but I can't give him higher than his teammate Bortoleto. Because he was a poor qualifying and they were almost, identical. It came down to the final lap.
It's a very fair point. I am going to give Nico 7 out of 10 because of the qualifying. I think, had he qualified 13th and then maybe made his way up to where he got to, perhaps it was deserving of an 8. But yeah, I think 7 is a fair shout because Bortoleto and Hülkenberg have had good parts of the weekend at different points. So yeah, 7 for me. The fans gave him an 8. Alex Albon started the race in 17th, finished 16th. What a disappointing weekend for Alex. I am going to give him a 4 out of 10. I say disappointing weekend, disappointing end to the season. Of course, he did end up beating his teammate Carlos, who had a disappointing start to the season due to many reasons. The Williams drivers very much had a tale of two halves, but the different parts of the season. So Alex, once again, I good surprised him. I thought maybe he'd bounce back in the final race after Williams looked pretty good in Qatar, but they didn't have the speed in Abu Dhabi, which you would think might have translated between the two, but clearly not. So a 4 out of 10. Just the strategy wasn't great, and he was just stuck in traffic.
I have gone for a 4 out of 10 for Alex Albon. A poor end to an absolutely brilliant season. That's kind of how he reflected on it as well. Picked up a penalty. Going to qualifying for firstly, actually, off his teammate, disappointing. Again, to be knocked out. And then he picked up a penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which obviously wouldn't have helped
by
his
0.1 kilometre an hour, by the way.
Indeed, yeah, crazy. But of course, if it's over, it's over. Just like a McLaren plank in Vegas, it has to be they are the rules.
I know, it's insane, isn't it?
It is insane. Such a shame because he's had a fantastic season. Of course, all in all, a lot to celebrate. In terms of strategy, I don't know if I'd agree a poor strategy. He went on that similar kind of thing with Hulk and Hamilton, but I think the 5-second penalty is probably what doomed him because he was just in the pack. It didn't work out for him.
Indeed. Albon, you look at his results. It is not great reading after Monza. He's not scored a single point bar the US sprint since Monza. But then you look at the first part of the season, he scored in the first 7 out of 8 races. And really secured himself in 8th in the championship.
It's going to be an interesting one in the driver ratings of the season.
Absolutely. The fans gave Alex a 4 out of 10. Carlos Sainz started the race in 12th, finished 13th.
I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Carlos Sainz. 3 seconds from a point. Don't think the Williams was all that great, but comfortably quicker than his teammate in qualifying. Didn't have the pace. I don't think they were, I don't think Williams, it suited them this weekend. Of course, they had an amazing run of form, so it maybe looks bad because of how well he's been doing recently. But certainly not a bad race from Carlos by any stretch.
Yep, I agree. I've gone for a 6 out of 10 as well for Carlos. I think that's a very fair grade, considering the Williams wasn't that great, as we saw. And sadly didn't manage to scare the points, but that's kind of where he was just there for pace, really. And in terms of the strategy that Carlos had, he was on the 1 stop compared to Alex Albon, who was on the 2. And it's just a very mediocre race, but I don't think I can give him straight down the middle, so I'm going to give him a 6. The fans, they did go straight down the middle. 5 out of 10.
Harsh.
Isaac Hadjar started the race in 9th, finished 17th. Wow. I mean, VCarb, what is going on?
Terrible, yeah.
I am going to go for a 5 out of 10 for Isaac Hadjar. And the only reason it's 5 rather than anything lower is because of his qualifying, which I think was brilliant. But my goodness gracious me, he fell like a stone. Had his teammate only 3 seconds behind at the end of the race. They were lapped as well. Just zero pace, absolutely zero pace. So surprising that considering what Isaac was able to do over 1 lap, did not translate in the slightest today. He said that they were one of the slowest in the pack. Said the pace was just outrageous in free practice. I assume outrageous, usually when I say outrageous, it means really good. I don't think that means really good.
No.
From the reflection of Hadjar. So they still solidified 6th in the Constructors, I believe. So they're still happy about that one. But as for the last performance, it's a 5 out of 10.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 as well for Hadjar. His qualifying was brilliant, but no race pace. I think they were. You look at what him and his teammate could do. The fact that they were evenly matched. It's almost like a Alpine situation where they were just, obviously because Alpine are so bad, they were the 9th fastest. But yeah, comfortably 9th fastest, I think, and just real struggle with the race pace. Shame for Hadjar because a poor end to the season. has dropped him actually quite away in the standings. He's dropped down to 12th, got beaten by Alonso, which you never thought would happen based on how the season had started. And I think Hadjar was up in 9th in the championship for quite a long time, and looking very
Albon.
good. Looking to beat Albon, and actually ended up finishing 12th. So
wow. Painful for Hadjar, but I'm sure he'll get over it. He's driving a Red Bull next year. Well, maybe.
Exactly.
We'll see how that one goes. The fans gave Isaac a 4 out of 10. Liam Lawson started the race in 13th, finished 18th.
I have gone for a 5 out of 10 for Liam Lawson. I know he had a worse qualifying than his teammate, but not by a huge amount of positions. And again, just kind of followed his teammate home. He got a penalty for erratic driving, but I don't think there was much he could have done anyway. The only real time we saw him was him sort of going for it on Lando at one point, which was kind of quite a crazy moment in our watch along where we're like, oh my god, he looks like he's kind of going for it here, trying to go around the outside of him, but no. I've gone for a 5. It's close to a 4, but I can't separate them.
You're talking yourself into it. I have gone for a 4 out of 10 for Liam Lawson because, yes, he has a penalty. He qualified worse than his teammate and eventually finished behind him, so I can't give them the same grade.
Fair. I'll go for a 4. I'll change mine to a 4.
I knew the second I committed to it.
No, it was the penalty, and I was like, yeah, okay. And it was for erratic driving in an incident with Behrman, so yeah, fair.
Okay, so a pair of 4s for both of us. But overall, Lawson can be happy with the fact that he has a seat next year. It's confirmed, and fingers crossed for him. He can just have a very sort of settled, consistent one next year, and no moving around anymore, because he's had some good performances this year, and I fully expect him to grow from this year. The fans gave him a 4 out of 10. Ollie Behrman started the race in 11th, finished 12th. I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Ollie Behrman. Would have been higher, but sadly he ruined it on quite literally the final lap, I think it was, with Lance Stroll. He was given a penalty. He said afterwards he doesn't know why. I've watched it back. I do know why. He's weaving around. It's erratic, and you can't be doing that. And we'll get onto Lance Stroll a little bit later because he did exactly the same thing as well. I think the drivers just forgot that they can't weave around when they're an inch away from another car. And they can't penalise Yuki Tsunoda for changes of direction and then not penalise Ollie Behrman for doing pretty much the same thing. He moves once, then he moves again to the inside. So annoying for Ollie Behrman, of course, because he had a chance of finishing P9, finishes outside of the points, but a reasonably, 6 out of 10, I think, reflects a good drive, but no points for him due to a mistake at the end.
I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Ollie Behrman as well. I think the penalty is one of those things that he probably gets away with in other scenarios, but as soon as they made that Yuki Tsunoda decision, they had to kind of clamp it down for the rest of the pack. And I guess fair play to the stewards for showing some consistency, because a lot of the time, we've argued that they don't show that consistency, and they almost like they're not watching the midfield, and they don't.
It's weird we talk about consistency because it feels like the entire year we've not seen it, but then in this race
exactly
we saw
where
it.
I was about to go with that next thing of I think they get away with that in every other scenario, apart from the fact that Yuki got his penalty because it was affecting the championship contender, and it was very like in front of all our eyes that it was one of those decisions where the stewards had to do something because. We were there going, this is the championship leader and the guy about to win the championship. Something needs to be done about this whole situation. They made their decision, and then they basically went, oh, I know this has been fine for years now, but now we're going to implement this. Ollie Behrman, just going back to him, what might have been kind of the form that he had at the start of the year, where we know he's got the pace, but just didn't deliver the performance. A shame for Ollie, because it could have been a really good result based on what his teammate did, but it's got to be a 6.
Okay, the fans gave Ollie a 6 as well. Esteban Ocon started the race in 8th, finished 7th.
I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon. I think it's an absolutely fantastic result. Welcome back, Esty Bestie. Why you had to do it when I said you were going to be a flop and rob me of the predictions championship.
Drawing.
How dare you?
Drawing, mate.
Well, it would have drawn it. Yeah. And then who knows what we'd have done. And then
roll it into next year.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But a fantastic result for Ocon. Really strong qualifying, which has been the thing that's really let him down a lot this year. And a great result for him that he actually managed to like put it all together in that final race. So good job, Esty Bestie. I've gone for a 9.
I've also gone for a 9, a very easy 9 to give to Esteban. So happy to see him back where we've seen him at the beginning of the year, and we've seen him so many other times. Qualifying has been his Achilles heel for the majority of the season. So the fact he made it to Q3, unleashed some of the pace that we saw in Behrman, as we mentioned in practice and on the run-up to qualifying. And then from there on, yeah, he was. It looked like he deserved to be there. He wasn't falling back. It wasn't the Ocon train. If anything, it was the Alonso train. So yeah, really, really good stuff. The fans gave him an 8. Franco Colapinto started the race in 20th, finished 20th. Funny we now speak about, after Ocon not being allowed to race, about the team that finished plumb last. So I'm sure Esteban doesn't take any sort of happiness or solace out of the fact that they were the slowest car. For Franco, it's going to be a 3 out of 10. I can't give him any higher than that for literally qualifying last and finishing last. I know the Alpine is rubbish, but look, didn't have any pace. The team didn't have any pace. Franco, it's a disappointing end to the year for sure. Finished 7 odd seconds behind Gasly. I think Gasly had a penalty. Yeah, he had a penalty for track limits, so that actually closed up the gap at the end. But yeah, it's just a disappointing weekend overall for Alpine.
I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Colapinto. I think when you see that Gasly's 19th, qualifying 19th and finishing 19th, I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as like a really bad performance. I think it's just the fact that the car is incredibly bad. Of course, you know, he's still got the opportunity to deliver, which we saw a lot more kind of a handful of races ago, but unfortunately he slipped into that kind of 20th place. But I think a lot of that is due to how poor the car is, and we'll see what he can do next year when hopefully the car is better.
Yeah, I mean, they've put their entire resource of 2025 into 2026. They've basically just brought a car from 24 and said, we'll run another season. And obviously they're gonna finish last. The fans gave Franco a 3 out of 10. Pierre Gasly started the race in 19th, finished 19th.
Gone for a 5 as well. 5 for Gasly. Yeah, he had a moment with Hülkenberg at the start, which was almost a massive incident. They banged wheels on the straight, and thankfully nothing came of it. Got a penalty for track limits. Look, the car is terrible. It's quite clear, but can't give him anything higher for a 19th place finish at all.
I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Gasly. Yes, he's beaten his teammate in both qualifying and the race, and that's why there's a nod to that, and he's a point above. But then, of course, I don't think he can go any higher than that due to the fact that he did get a penalty for track limits. So clearly pushing, but pushing too hard. Not that it lost him any positions, but overall a weekend and a season to forget for Alpine. The fans gave Pierre a 5. Lance Stroll started the race in 15th, finished 10th. Dear, Lance Stroll, not the worst by any stretch of the imagination. I am going to go for a 7 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. Could have maybe been higher had he not picked up a penalty for also weaving and changing of direction, both of which, due to the fact of Yuki Tsunoda's incident, were absolutely penalties by being consistent. Lance had got through on a Williams, and then when he was about an inch ahead of the Williams, started then weaving all over the place to try and get slipstream of the car ahead, which, you know, you can argue he's trying to race, he's trying to get the slipstream, but I don't know. Consistency-wise, as we said, from Abu Dhabi, that makes sense, but for the entire season, it's not really. Usually it's black and white flags. That's what you would usually get for dangerous, erratic driving of that that kind, or at least that's what I believe. But one thing I will say for Lance in his favour was the move that he put on Ollie Behrman.
Yeah.
Was absolutely incredible. Round the outside there was a great move, and I had to double check what onboard that was, and it wasn't Fernando Alonso. It was, in fact, Lance Stroll pulling a great move on Ollie Behrman. Of course, Lance was going on the attack, wasn't he, at the end of the race? He pitted. Actually, no, to be fair, he went very long on the hards and then just went. It was a one stop, but he pitted at lap 42, whereas Behrman was basically on quite old hards. So that allowed Lance to get a great run and pull off a fantastic move. So 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Lance Stroll as well. It would have been an 8 without the penalty. His qualifying we know is poor and has been, but made the strategy work, raced through the field at the end. His move on Behrman, as you say, was absolutely brilliant. Now, I saw a whole onboard of him basically like doing that move, then crossing the line and cheering and having that buzz of like, oh my God, like what a result. And that's the kind of stuff we want to see more from Lance. We've questioned his motivation and stuff a lot. And it's good to see stuff like that when you really feel that like he wants to be here and wants to be racing and having those moments. Got points for Aston Martin, just not quite enough for Aston Martin. They were so close to actually pipping RB, but it was going to be a massive long shot anyway. They were close to doing it.
The fans gave Lance Stroll a 7 out of 10. Fernando Alonso started the race in 6th, finished 6th.
I have gone for a 10 out of 10 for Fernando Alonso. I think he's absolutely maximised everything from that car. Of course, the McLarens, the Mercedes, Ferraris and whatever have gone off. We'll talk about Charles later. I don't think the Ferrari is particularly great. But he's maximised everything with a brilliant P6, and then to get P6 in the race as well. We're just seeing like Alonso doing Alonso things of maximising what he's got with that package, and it's insane to think that he's now the way he like had that end to the season and grabbed the points, because he was incredibly unlucky, and I was sweating that he was going to finish behind Lance Stroll in the championship, but instead comfortably ahead and actually got into the top 10 in the end. But a fantastic result and just a really great weekend to maximise both qualifying and the race. So I've gone for a 10.
Okay. Is Tommy being a fanboy or is it correct? I think I will also go for a 10 out of 10 for Fernando. I have to question what more could he really have done. He managed the pack very well. He knew exactly what he was doing at the start of the race. It was the Fernando train, and the one-stop strategy worked very well. He was very much in that sort of tyre management phase. Didn't really matter how far behind he finished behind George Russell, because he was never going to put an impression on him. So there isn't really a blemish on Fernando's weekend at all that I can downgrade him to a 9 or anything like that. So 10 out of 10 for Fernando. Great way to end the year, and still showing that he's got it. The fans gave him a 9. They need more from him. Kimi Antonelli started the race in 14th, finished 15th. Speaking of someone we do need to see a little bit more from, was Kimi Antonelli this weekend. It's a 4 out of 10 for Kimi. Yes, the Mercedes wasn't great. But George showed that you could easily drive that car to 5th and 6th with a massive chasm between, as I mentioned, George and Fernando. But it all came undone because of Kimi's qualifying. And from there on, we've seen how difficult it is to overtake, how difficult it is to make an impression, even on midfield cars that you would expect to beat on pure pace. Antonelli went reasonably long on the hards to lap 32. Actually, to be fair, longer on the mediums in his one-stop strategy. But yeah, it was kind of not. I don't think it was even the best strategy either to try and sort of unleash any pace either from Merck. But Kimi said after that he was just really struggled with the car, with the balance, had no pace. So I think it's a 4, because had George finished 13th, we'd be speaking about this differently. But George finished 5th.
I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Kimi Antonelli. It's close between a 3 and a 4. I think it's disappointing in qualifying again from him, which seemed to have let him down quite a few times this year. I do think the Mercedes struggled with pace. You saw that with how far George was off the victory. A really poor end to the season for Antonelli. He was just kind of like completely anonymous, nowhere. I mean, you look at where he finished. The Alpines are obviously terrible. The two RBs had no race pace, and then it's Albon who's got a penalty. So yeah, it's really really poor from Kimi when you see the result that George got. It's got to be a 4 out of 10 for Antonelli.
The fans also gave Kimi a 4. George Russell started the race in 4th, finished 5th.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for George Russell. I think it would be easy to look at Mercedes as a way of like how they've been this year and think, oh, George was nowhere. It's 50 seconds off the win. I think you look at what Antonelli's done. I know George has been the better driver for a lot of the year, but I genuinely do think Mercedes just had a poor car this race. And for George to qualify 4th and then finish the race in 5th, yes, there was a massive chasm, as you say, between Leclerc and Alonso for him to slot into. But I think it's just another case of George maximising the results game and grabbing, 10 points when the car was absolutely nowhere and his teammates finished 15th. So I think, to give him lower would be too harsh. So I've gone for an 8.
I've also gone for an 8 out of 10. I echo your thoughts. I think George has done what George does. Very consistent. Yes, didn't have the pace, but overall it could have been a much worse weekend, as we've seen on the other side of the Mercedes garage. So to give him any lower, I think would be, not really sort of appreciating the fact that he'd done a pretty good job in a poor car. So well done to George. The fans gave him a 7. Yuki Tsunoda started the race in 10th, finished 14th. I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda. Looked like it could have been a lot better with the fact he made Q3. Sadly, track limits on his last lap. Yes, he helped Max on his first, but he track limits on his second, which put him down in 10th at the end of Q3. He then picked up a penalty defending against Norris, which was a poor defence, as we've mentioned before in the main race podcast. And overall, his teammates won the race. This is the last time we're going to say this about Yuki, so I'm sure he'll be very happy to not be compared to Max Verstappen ever again. Probably not so happy at the fact he's not going to be on the grid next year. But I'm sorry, Yuki. I'm sorry, Yuki fans, but it was a 4 out of 10 performance.
See, for me, it's between a 2 and a 3. I'll go for a 3 out of 10.
Okay.
I can already see the comments going, "Oh, you're just bitter that he didn't defend for Max's title."
I was thinking as well, to be fair.
What you're thinking as well. I mean, look, four is incredibly generous to finish 1 minute and 23 seconds.
Oh no, but he was being used at the same time. You can't say that it's fully down to that. And then he's in the pack. Like, I don't think the gap is fully representative.
Yeah, but I think the qualifying situation as well, like we spoke about it yesterday, saying he got sacrificed. He did on the first lap. He had an opportunity on the second lap and missed the opportunity. Of course, we've discussed what we think about the move. He played it completely wrong. If he was indeed trying, of course, maybe part of him was like, I don't care, I'm leaving. I don't think that was the case, because he wouldn't have picked up a penalty trying so hard to do it. But he just did it in completely the wrong place if he was trying to help his teammate. But I'm not downgrading him from that. I'll go for a 3, because he was just a sad way to end what's probably going to be his Formula One career, and it's a shame, because I really wanted him to succeed. I was excited for him to get in that car, and you wind all the way back to Suzuka, and we were going, oh yeah, it's kind of got unlucky in qualifying a little bit, but it's shown that it's the right decision to put him in the car, but it's got no better from there other than a Qatar sprint, really. So yeah, disappointing end to Yuki's F1 career, potentially.
The fans gave Yuki a 4 out of 10. Max Verstappen started the race in first, finished first.
I've gone for a 10 out of 10 for Max Verstappen. Shock. At the end of the day, he just did what he could. There was no gamesmanship. This could have easily, it would have been a very interesting grade had he won the race but deployed some questionable tactics and stuff to win and try and win the championship. But instead, drove his own race, won brilliantly, looked comfortable, even on a a strategy that maybe didn't work for other people. It looked like in the end the two-stop was quite good based on what we saw from like Hamilton and Hulkenberg. No one tried it, of course, in terms of like with Max and Oscar in 1-2. But yeah, I've gone for a 10. Of course, he was brilliant to get pole position and just led away, and that was it.
Exactly. Easy 10 out of 10 for Max Verstappen. Phenomenal weekend once again. Drove away into the distance around a track we expected the McLarens to be the fastest. We expected Lando, who is phenomenal around here, to maybe do something special and win the World Championship in glorious style and winning the race. But it was Max. An unbelievable pole lap, 2 pole laps that were good enough, and untouchable, absolutely untouchable in the race. So just looking at Max Verstappen's season, I love how he looked at so many scenarios, even after Brazil, of going, well, where would they need to finish in order for Max to win the World Championship? And he's won the last 3 races. And Lando, of course, wins the World Championship by 2 points, was disqualified because, of course, what happened in Las Vegas, finished 4th in Qatar, 3rd in the sprint, and then 3rd in Abu Dhabi to win by 2 points. I mean, it's how close this came, considering how far he was back, is absolutely ridiculous. The fans gave Max a 10. Lewis Hamilton started the race in 16th, finished 8th. This one's hard. This one's really hard, but it always is hard with Hamilton. It's going to be a 6 out of 10 for Lewis Hamilton. It is still a poor weekend for Hamilton. He crashes in practice. He gets knocked out in Q1. Yes, it's very close in qualifying, but Charles Leclerc qualified at 5th. Yeah, it's 2-3 tenths the difference between the 2 teammates, but that is massive in Formula 1. And then he's on the back foot massively. I think he did a very good job to come through the pack around a track that's quite difficult to overtake. I think the strategy was also aggressive and good from Ferrari. Got rid of the hard tyres very quickly. Only did about 23 laps on the hard tyres. Had 8 laps at the beginning on the softs, and then finished with a 27-lap stint on the mediums. And he pulled off some great moves. But he is fighting, as we've seen with Charles Leclerc and how fast he was. He's fighting cars that are slower, quite a lot slower than him around him. So I don't think I can give him any higher than a 6.
I was going to go for a 7, and it's just clocked just how far he was behind his teammate, and I've basically just given Yuki Tsunoda a 3 to how far he was off. It's a 6 out of 10 for Lewis Hamilton. Definitely, now I look at it, yes, it looks great that he's made his way through the field to 8th, and you go, 8th place, the Ferrari's not very good. You can only compare to your teammate. He's finished 50 seconds behind. His teammate, we're going to get onto, yes, of course, he's going to get a good grade, but his teammate was racing a McLaren at the start, and looking like he could potentially grab a podium. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton he's made it through after a really poor qualifying, but he's finished behind Esteban Ocon in a Haas. You can get baited by the drives, and had it been like a mechanical failure or something that meant he qualified 16th, then you give him more leniency, but it was his own kind of bad quali lap that cost him.
Okay, the fans gave Lewis a 7. Charles Leclerc started the race in 5th, finished 4th.
We've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Charles Leclerc. It was a decent drive from him. I'm just waiting to see how long I can keep this up before I actually give my actual grade, just to bait Matt. It is an easy 10 out of 10 for Charles Leclerc.
I was about to drive to your house and slap you silly. I was sat there like, did he just get like 5 secret penalties that I didn't see?
Yeah.
An 8!
Yeah. Actually, can I just see, before I give my real grade, how many people actually gave Charles Leclerc an 8 from the fan vote? Let me see.
Well, if you are one of those people, you can jog swiftly on.
17% of people gave Charles Leclerc an 8.
Ridiculous.
It's like Fernando Alonso. He's got absolutely everything and more out of his machinery. He's beaten his teammate, who is a 7-time world champion, by 50 seconds. He's raced a McLaren in a Ferrari that is so poor this year and so difficult to drive that we've seen that in the hands of his teammate. He qualified well. He managed to, battle Lando at the start, even challenge at the end, going for a risk of the medium tyre to maybe try something, see if he could grab a podium. But it didn't work out. But no way should he have been anywhere near the McLarens in the first place. And it is just another sign of Charles Leclerc just doing things that give him the car. And, he's one of the best drivers on the grid, hands down.
Of course, I have also gone for a 10 out of 10. I was about to put my armour, sword and shield on and start fighting Tommy on this driver ratings episode. But I'm glad that Tommy was, in fact, joking, although I would have definitely just gone fully ham had that not been the case. But yeah, 10 out of 10 for Charles. So proud of him, actually, to have put that performance down after what has been such a disappointing season. The expectation on Ferrari, on Charles Leclerc, was big. We genuinely thought Ferrari could well be somewhere in the hunt to get at least a lot of victories. Whether the World Championship was up for grabs, well, I obviously believed. And I think a lot of people did, Ferrari fans, and what we had instead was a car that went backwards, a car that they completely turned into a new philosophy. We'll see how much pain they will have over the next few years if they've invested too much in it. But this performance, Charles worked really hard between Friday and Saturday because on Friday they were struggling really quite slow. He managed to find something in the car, qualifying, fifth. He qualified fifth, and I'm like, that's my Charles Leclerc right there. So I want more of it, and I want more of it for the win, not for P7 or P8. Thank you very much. The fans have gone for a 9 out of 10. No comment. No comment in the slightest. Let's move to Oscar Piastri. Started the race in third, finished second. My grade for Oscar Piastri is a 9 out of 10. I think it was a very strong performance from Oscar in the championship finale. There's a lot of chatter about whether Lando let Oscar through on lap 1.
He did.
Is that absolutely
it's confirmed now? Yeah.
It's confirmed. It looked convincing. I won't lie to you. Lando stuck to the inside. We were just watching like, whoa! Makes sense, I guess, from a McLaren point of view in some ways, but then also put Lando under pressure from Charles Leclerc behind. We'll get into that one. But Oscar was quick. Oscar was really quick. On the hard tyres, he put pressure on Verstappen, stopped Max from doing anything too crazy, I think. And overall, a really good weekend to finish for Oscar. Yes, he didn't get the win. Yes, he didn't get pole position. But when you look at what his run of form was up until Qatar, I'm sure he will take this as a much stronger end. So, yeah, it's a 9 out of 10.
I've gone for a 9 out of 10.
You were thinking 8, weren't you?
It's like an 8.5. And I'm sad.
Do that.
Well, no,
it is. We always say that, right? We always go, we don't give halves, but then we say to everybody what it would have been. So just so that we don't get shouted at.
Yeah. Well, look, it's close. I think it would have been a 9 if I hadn't heard the fact that it was a planned move, because I think he deserves a 9 for going round the outside of his teammate on hard tyres.
Did they give reasoning for that?
So let me find the quote from Stella. I think everyone entered the race not clear whether it was a 1 or a 2 stop, but I think everyone was clear that the hard would have been a good tyre. If there's someone on a hard chasing somebody on a medium, the one on the medium needs to push at some stage and might have to pit. Oscar basically would push Max in the hope that it, one, to stop the backing up, and also because it meant Max would have to push his tyres more. So it was a clever play from McLaren. Yeah, Oscar, I'll go for a 9. Of course, just pipped by Lando in qualifying, and beat him in the race. Tried something different, and a good drive from him.
The fans gave Oscar a 9 as well. Lando Norris started the race in second, finished third.
I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Lando Norris. I was going to give them exactly the same, and again, it's like an 8.5 for both of them. I think I can't downgrade him doing the job that he needed to secure the title. Maybe he could have fought Piastri at the end and overtaken him, but he didn't need to. So, of course, he was never going to do that. I think he kept his head in the situations that he had when he had Leclerc behind him, the pressure of potentially dropping down into the dreaded fourth place. Of course, I know he always had Oscar that could have let him through, but it still would have made it very nerve-wracking. And then I think even when he got pushed into the pack, it could have been very easy for him to second-guess himself in every single move. I know he was racing midfielders and things and stuff, and people would just say, oh, of course it's really easy, but like he's going for the World Championship. Every move had to be spot on. He couldn't lose time. He couldn't he had to make those moves and make sure they were clean. You saw the fact of like Liam Lawson maybe pushing him even harder than Tsunoda did. And he did what he needed to do to secure the championship. So I've gone for a 9.
I've also gone for a 9 out of 10. You consider everything, all the pressure, everything on his shoulders. This is factored in as well to this grade. Because obviously Oscar beat him, but that was a McLaren attack from both drivers on Max Verstappen to ensure that one McLaren driver came out as world champion, most likely Lando Norris. So it's interesting, Lando, that he accepted that strategy. I think that they probably believed that they would have the pace to not be put under pressure by the likes of Charles Leclerc and George Russell. But Charles decided, you know what, I fancy a podium. So I think that was a slight spanner in the works for McLaren and Lando, but he dealt with it really well. It's what I've said before and I'll say again. I think he's dealt with the pressure so much better than we've ever seen. And his pace was decent. He did everything he needed to do come the end of that race. Yeah, it was a champion's drive because it was podium. That's all he needed, and that's what he delivered. So, a 9 out of 10 for Lando, and congratulations once again for becoming the 2025 Formula One World Champion. The fans also gave Lando a 9. So finally, who is our P1? Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc is my P1. I will not.
He got a 9
anything.
from the fans, though.
I don't care. It's my P1. Not who's the fans' P1. Also, they gave Fernando Alonso a 9, did they not? Yes, they did. So I can't believe you didn't shout at them for that one. Hey, no, let's end it on a positive note, shall we? Driver ratings can sometimes get very heated, and I appreciate your opinion just like you should appreciate mine. Charles Leclerc is my P1, though. Brilliant drive. So happy to see him put a performance like that down. As I said, 2026 is our year.
As a Max Verstappen and Fernando Alonso fanboy, you'll not be surprised to hear that my P1 is Charles Leclerc. And it's comfortably Charles Leclerc. I can't believe Charles and Alonso got a 9 from the fans. Like for me, those were the two stars of the race that got everything out of their machinery. Of course, Max won the race brilliantly. He had the car, he delivered, and again, like those three fully deserved 10s, but I think what Charles managed to do against, the strong teammate that he's got, how much he managed to push a McLaren in his little red tractor, it was just a reminder of just what a great driver he is.
Right, that is it. We are done. Driver ratings for the entire season, locked away. Pop it in the chest, never to be looked at again.
Apart from when we go through all of them.
True. I think it'll be fun to go through all the average grades to see, recency bias aside, where our top 20 or 21, whatever, will be come the end of the season. So look forward to that. It'll be coming out very soon, as well as some other recap content. Tommy, final thoughts?
Yep. Final thoughts are one last one of grading all the drivers before we go through our averages. Thanks to everyone in the comments and the P1 live shows and things that say about driver ratings and how they love it and they want us to keep doing it and stuff.
Remind us now as well if you're in the comments.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, it's good fun. We banter about it and stuff, but at the end of the day, a lot of these drives are subjective. We never know exactly. It's something Alex Albon said. Exactly how good a car is. We never know how good a car actually is. It's all subjective at the end of the day.
Some people need to be reminded of that in the comments. I will admit. There's some people out there that need to remember that your number is not the same as mine, and that's the beauty of it.
Exactly, and it's fine. Like, we can all disagree, and that's what makes the series fun. So thanks to everyone that enjoys the series, leaves a nice comment and a like, and
there we go. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you very soon. Lots of love. Take care. Driver ratings out until the averages.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Remember what Matt said, subjective unless you get Charlie Clarinel.
Yeah, but in which case...